Hello friends, in this video I am going to show in two categories of basic and advanced level CSS selectors. CSS selectors are one of the most important parts of the CSS. They give you the ability to target HTML elements on your web page that you want to stay. Then how to use CSS selectors and what are the CSS selectors? CSS selectors to select the HTML elements you want to style. In this video, I am going to show the two categories of basic and advanced level of CSS selectors. Below are the five categories: simple selectors, combinator selectors, pseudo class selectors, pseudo element selectors, attribute selectors. CSS element type selector. The CSS element selector selects HTML elements based on the element name. Element selectors select all the HTML elements with name you select. Let's look at a CSS selector example for element selectors. H1, H2, P, header, article, footer, there are elements. For this example, we have selected all elements on page that, that are the type of H3 and article and applied styles to those elements. Element selectors help you keep your code simple by applying the styling to all elements on a page of that type. This means you only have to keep track of your styles for those elements in one place. CSS ID selector. The ID selector selects the HTML elements that have an ID attribute that match the selector. To select an element with a specific ID, you use hash character followed by the ID of the HTML element. CSS class selector. The class selector selects HTML elements that have a class attribute that matches the selector. To select an element with a specific class character and then followed it with class name. Universal selector. The universal selector selects all HTML elements. This means every single element on your page from the headings to the footer. The syntax for the universal selector is the star. See how to group CSS selectors. Grouping allows you to select multiple HTML elements at once and only state their style definitions once. Next, I will move to Advanced CSS Selectors. Advanced CSS Selectors allow you to push the boundaries of CSS. They help you get highly specific in what elements you want to target and what state that elements in when targeting it. Let's get straight to into some advanced CSS selector by looking at attribute selectors. CSS attribute selectors. Attribute selectors let you select elements based on whether a certain attribute is present or not. To put it another way, the CSS selector will match any element on your page if it has a certain attribute. An attribute is content added to the opening tag of HTML element. It can be things like ID, name, or value. you enjoy this video. If you learned something from this video, you can subscribe and support our channel.